What's going on, little spooksters? Sorry I can't be there today. Obviously, I'm a couple states away. I also have to work today, so I couldn't make it digitally. But do not worry. In my absence, we have the awesome nurse Hadley. She's one of Lexi's really good friends, and she's actually coming out with a book soon that talks about what happens when people pass away, which obviously we know we're super interested in here. So I'm really excited to ask her a couple questions today, and I'm really excited for her to talk about her book with you guys. So without further ado, here's Lexi and Nurse Hadley.
Hey, what's up, you guys? And welcome back to another episode of Seeking Spirits. Yay! Today, we have the lovely Nurse Hadley with us. And as you saw from the video before, Nick's not here today, but he did send in some questions, and we had to make it work. We had to have Nurse Hadley on while she was here because we're actually working on a project together. There's a lot of parallels in, our kind of spooky stuff and what you do. So if you want to kind of, let the people know, I'm sure they totally know who you are, but who you are, what you do.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Hadley, also known as Nurse Hadley. I started TikTok about 3 years ago, sharing my stories as a hospice nurse. I'm a registered nurse. I've been working in hospice for 6 years and absolutely love it. I share stories from my patients before they die, all the unexplainable things that I've witnessed, beautiful moments that I've witnessed, and I've also written a book about it. I do collaborations like this with Lexi, and I am starting a nonprofit.
Yes, so much good. I knew that Hadley was writing a book, but it's coming out soon, and do you want to tell them what your book is called?
Yes, it's called The In-Between: Unforgettable Encounters During Life's Final Moments.
So, relevant to what we're doing. So me and Hadley have personally talked a lot about, the kind of crossover that is here, and we just talk about a bunch of different, things regarding death. And so it's been really cool to hear her perspective on that. So I can't wait for you guys to hear it. So I'm going to pull my phone out real quick, and I'm going to grab Nick's first question. Also, make sure that you guys either go order her book, or if it's already out when this comes out, I'm not sure exactly what day it's coming out, go buy it, please. And thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Nick wants to know, how do you feel having to deal with loss so frequently?
I think that you kind of get used to it after a little bit. I don't think it ever gets easier seeing people have to go through it.
Right.
That's very, very difficult, but you just kind of learn to live with it, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm sure it can weigh heavy on you also, just differently at different times, because every patient is so individual in your relationship with them. So I'm sure some are harder than others.
Absolutely. Sometimes I'll have people for months, 6 to 9 months. And then sometimes we only have people for a couple of days. It varies very widely. So yeah, some people you do get much closer to. But yeah, I see a therapist. She's wonderful, and she helps me try to separate, home life versus work life while not becoming unsympathetic to people, and remembering that it's still very sensitive, the work I do.
Yeah, I think it takes a really special person to be able to do that, because you're really taking on a lot of emotion and kind of energy from everybody around you.
Yeah.
And, helping families also through their grief. It's such a heroic thing to do.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. I just love her so much, if you don't already know. And so another question Nick had was, seeing all of these people grieve, do you have any advice for people like us who are going through the grief process?
Yeah, and I think you said you'll insert my grief video.
Yes, she has an amazing video on it.
Grief is a process that never truly ends, and this is why. I'm Hadley, I'm a hospice nurse, and I use this visual at my job. When you first lose someone, it's going to look like this, with the box representing your life. This is a pain button, and this ball is your grief. At first, the ball is huge, and it is hitting that pain button all the time. Over time, the box, your life, grows, and the ball and the button shrink in comparison. Here's the caveat though, the pain associated with this button never shrinks. Eventually, your box will be huge, and as you move through life and that grief ball starts bouncing around, it's not hitting that button as often. But the button never goes away, so when it is hit, it feels just as bad as the first time. There's always hope after loss, but no matter how long it's been, some days are going to feel just like the first day.
And it really explains, someone actually showed it to me, and it's basically called The Box and the Ball, and how to understand grief and how it can feel so incredibly overwhelming at first. And you feel like my life is over. I'm going to feel like this forever. And actually the way that it's taught by the psychologist is that your grief ball shrinks. And the first time I posted on TikTok, I shared it that way. And someone in the comments actually changed how I teach it. And they said, I don't think your grief ever shrinks. I think your life grows.
I feel like that's a great way to put it.
I totally agree. And so now I teach it as your life grows.
Yeah.
And when your life grows, you have this pain button that is like your grief, and your ball of grief is hitting it less often.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that like those days that are really hard are going to feel like you're back at square one.
Yeah.
But it's not. And it's going to get less frequent, but it's not going to hurt any less.
Right. And I think that's a really great way to put it, because when you lose somebody, and, you know, we were talking about this, in the first couple of weeks, like everybody's checking on you. Everybody is really sympathetic and they really care. But then, you know, they weren't that close with that person, and their life moves on, and you feel like you're stuck, and it doesn't. And so I think it was just like, to see that video was such a really helpful thing, because it was like, okay, it's okay that it still hurts the same. My life hasn't gotten much bigger yet. It hasn't been that much time. And I think too, like, just as time goes on, you know, it helps that bubble grow no matter what's really going on in your life, just because it puts more space in your box.
It does. And in giving purpose, like you doing this with your brother, or what we're doing, and feeling like you're honoring him and making him proud helps that box grow.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I just think the more that you talk about it, you know, obviously on my Lexi DIY stuff, I only do like renovation, makeovers, and, you know, some DIY projects. But I've been talking about it more, and I've gotten so many messages from people like, really thank you for talking about it, because you know, they had like their parent die like literally the same day.
Really?
Yeah. And or like a week before, or like a week after. And they're just like, you know, you kind of need to see other people going through it to realize that you're not alone, because it does feel very lonely.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
I know another question that we have, which really ties into like the paranormal, is, have you ever, you know, had a patient that you've taken care of that has come back to you in like a dream, or like physically as a ghost? Like, have you ever had a really like paranormal experience? Because you do work with so many people in the in-between.
Yes. So I think this one, I mean, I know some people will be like, no, that's a coincidence, but I don't think it is. So this is what happened. We went out of town. Mm-hmm. We went to visit my in-laws for the weekend, and we came back, and we were like, oh my gosh, it smells so horrible in the house. We must have forgotten to take the trash out before we left for the weekend. Right. So we put our stuff down. We ran to the grocery store, because it's like Sunday night, you know, with kids, you got to get everything. And so we're just like running through the grocery store, getting bare bones for the week. And we don't ever eat frozen pizza, because where we live, we have a lot of really good like takeout pizza that's like the same price. Yeah. And I happened to go through that section, and I noticed this pizza that my patient used to eat every day. Like, really? She used to eat this frozen pizza every day. And I like walked by it and was like, oh, that's nice, because she had passed like maybe a month before. Mm-hmm. And I keep going, because of course we don't eat frozen pizza. And I felt like someone was screaming at me, go get that frozen pizza. Yeah. Like they were literally screaming at me. And I was like, I'm going to get whatever. I'm going to get this frozen pizza, right? So get the frozen pizza. Don't even tell my husband. And I'm just going to put it in the fridge. We get home, and we actually go to call the local pizza place. Mm-hmm. And it's not like super late. They don't answer. They don't answer my phone call. They don't answer my husband's phone call. Interesting. Which never happens. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I got frozen pizza. Yeah. So perfect. So I go to preheat the oven. It beeps that it's preheated, and I come back, and the entire oven's on fire. Oh, my God. And so we're freaking out. My husband is getting, turning it off, getting the thing. He's like, get the kids out. Like there was black smoke everywhere. Like it was immediately filling up. So the fire department comes, they put it out. And then like a week later, I guess they do like an investigation.
Right.
And they said that there was a gas leak, which was what that smell was. But that we thought the trash can was. And they said that if we would have gone to sleep that night and not turned the oven on, we all would have died in our sleep.
So literally she was like saving you.
That's how I feel.
Oh, what? I got full body chills. Hadley has never told me that story. I've heard a lot of her stories, but she's never told me that one. And that is seriously amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really, really weird.
And did you immediately, once they said that to you, were you like, oh, she made me get that pizza on purpose. She made them not answer the phone. Like,
yeah, I did think it. I was like, that's just so weird, because if we would have gotten the takeout, we wouldn't have started the oven. Of
course, right.
And that was our only gas appliance. So like we had to start the oven.
Right.
For it to be discovered.
That's like absolutely incredible. And I feel like things like that, you can say whatever you want and you can believe, oh, it's just a coincidence. And I think that's totally valid. We always say that, like, no matter what you believe, totally fine. But it's kind of cool because I feel like once you kind of acknowledge it, I don't know if you feel this way, but you almost like have a sense of relief. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're like, okay, there's a little something more to life.
And it's like, you've got me. Like, y'all have got me handled. Like, whatever's going on, like, I don't need to stress it. And, like, I always say, like, rejection is redirection. And, like, there's a reason for this.
Yep. And I saw this TikTok recently, actually, that said no is, it's not like a rejection. It's like next opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I need to find who said that because it was really great.
I can't even begin to tell you how many times, like, I thought my life was over.
Oh,
and then you're like, thank goodness.
Yeah, for sure. We were talking about this a little bit yesterday, and you mentioned that you can feel the energy in the room shift when somebody is gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really weird because sometimes it happens before they actually, like, take their last breath.
Yeah.
But so usually what I'll do is near the end, I'll go see my patients every day. So I can tell sometimes day to day, they're not here anymore. They were here yesterday.
Yeah.
Even though they're in a coma. They're not, they've been in a coma. And then occasionally you can feel it. And sometimes when people do take their last breath, you can feel the energy in the room shift. Sometimes I feel it when I'm when I'm cleaning them up, like they've taken a moment to kind of hang out and like now they're gone. And you really can feel it. Almost like that elephant in the room feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was telling you that, like, I feel like this is evidenced by if you ever have watched a loved one die, most people actually do know when someone's last breath is. And they don't really think about this, but if you like look back, you're like, I knew that was last breath the moment it happened.
Right.
Although scientifically, you shouldn't, because at the end, people have 1 to 2 minute pauses in between breaths. So if you didn't notice the shift in energy, it would actually take you a couple of minutes when no other breath comes.
Right.
For you to know, but most people know exactly when someone's last breath is.
We were also talking about the fact that like people, whether it's like subconsciously or maybe even consciously, and I feel like we won't get to know the answer to this question until it's our time to go, which is just, isn't that the thing of it all? Yeah. We'll never find out until we get there. How they can tell or they like know that it's coming.
Oh yeah, they definitely know that it's coming.
Yeah.
And they can tell me when it's going to be, which is crazy to me.
So what's been like the craziest thing that has ever happened with a patient telling you like, I'm going to go, and then they go like exactly in that manner or exactly on that day, something like that?
So this one is in my book if you want to hear like the whole story, but basically what happened is I was extremely, extremely, extremely close to her, and she was one of my like first 5 deaths, but I had her for a really long time, that I was like, there at the end, like every day. And her husband came back to get her. And she said, we're going tonight. And I was like, okay. So I called all my coworkers and I was like, I'm not on call, but I need to be there for her.
Yeah.
So you just call me when she dies and I'll be there.
Yeah.
So I'm like at home, just checking my phone every 5 minutes. I'm like, it's going to come. It's going to come any moment now. And I wake up the next morning and I didn't get a call. And I was like, that's so weird. Like maybe she was wrong. So as soon as it turns 8 a.m., I called the family and I was like, hey, just checking in. Like, how are things going? And he was like, Hadley, Mom passed at 3 a.m. last night. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they didn't call me. I'm so sorry. I told everyone to call me. And he was like, my dad, the one who had come to get her, who had passed away 20 years beforehand, actually told my mom that you couldn't handle it. So please don't call you.
That's really sweet.
I know.
That's really sweet. That gives me like tears in my eyes. Oh my gosh.
Really sweet.
I can't wait to read your book. It's like, that's just so incredible. And I mean, how did you feel when you heard that?
I was really amazed because I hadn't actually shared that with anyone.
Yeah.
And like, I even say in the book, like that, I'm like, I'm such a horrible hospice nurse. I'm like dreading this death. I'd like get in my car after that. And I was like, I can't handle this. Like even like she was like so old and I just like didn't want to lose her at all. And like when she stopped eating, I was like, please don't stop eating.
Yeah.
You know, like even though like that's not my purpose and I'm supposed to be like, okay, whatever your body wants. Like I just was not ready for it at all, that I hadn't shared that with anyone.
Oh my god.
So it was just in my head, you know?
Right. And isn't that so crazy? That goes back to like the whole energy thing. Her, you know, passed on husband could literally see your energy and how much you cared. And I mean, they didn't want you to have to experience that incredible grief, especially so early on in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because then I did get a little bit better at it and really understanding that, like, this is how it is and it's okay.
Yeah.
But I just, for some reason, that one was really hard on me, especially because she was raised extremely religious. She was religious her entire life, and I was too. And at the end, she was like, well, when you get to the end, like, you do actually wonder, like, is something going to go black? And I felt that way. Yeah. So I was like very anxious about that. And then when her husband came and got her, she was completely relieved of all fears.
That's amazing.
It is.
So do you ever have people that like think that they're hallucinating? I mean, I know that some people say when, you know, their loved ones come at the end for them that, oh, they're just hallucinating. They're going out of their mind. You know, their body isn't working. But like, what do you think that is?
So I don't think people are hallucinating. I've had one patient who did think he was hallucinating when his mom came. Because
it's so vivid, right?
Yeah, it's super vivid. And he had developed a severe distrust of the medical community for very good reasons, very valid reasons. But we had grown close, and he said, like, please don't medicate me. Like, I'm scared that you're going to medicate me, but I don't want her to go.
Yeah.
But like, I think I'm having hallucinations. And I was like, I don't think you're having hallucinations. And he's like, you think my mom's here? And I was like, I think your mom's here.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was really amazing. But so I see hallucinations. I know what hallucinations look like.
Yeah.
They can be spiders. They can be a horse. They can be the walls are blue. Like, they're, you know.
Like, you've dealt medically with people who are
hallucinations. And these are deceased family members. They're not living family members. And it happens no matter your age, your religion, your background. Like, and it just happens to so many people. And so, you know, there's a distinct difference. They're only seeing deceased loved ones.
Right. And so it's not just like a figment of their imagination, you know? It's like when you see all of these things happen over and over and over and over again, it kind of gives you that like, okay, well, it has to be them. It has to be them, you know, like the people coming back for them. And that gives me a little bit of peace.
Oh, absolutely.
Because who really knows what happens when we go?
Absolutely.
Going back to when, you know, people can tell you when they're going to go, or even like subconsciously they know. The same thing happened with, you know, my dad, like we were talking about. We were like literally joking about his funeral, like, but the day before we left. And I yelled at him and I made him say, I love you. And then he said bicycle instead, because he would be like, bicycle. That's how he would always hang up the phone with me. But he would be like, oh, tell P I love her, because he loved Penelope. I think a little bit more than me. No. But I walked out of the room and I said, Dad, you better not say bicycle. I said, love you, say it back. And he was like, I love you, bicycle. And then I went to sleep. And then the next day we left and, you know, bad things happened after that. But I literally said, I'm going to say bicycle at your funeral. And I felt so guilty. But like, he was also talking about like, you never know if it's going to be your last Christmas. And we were more talking about, you know, his parents, just because they're, you know, they're not doing well. And so he was always so worried about that. And we never thought it would be him. It's like weird that he almost knew by the things he was saying.
Yeah, I think people know.
And I really wonder if they actually have the thought, like, I think I'm going to pass away, or if it's just like a gut instinct to go call people and make sure that they know that you love them and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or maybe it's like a combination, like they're having dreams about people, and like we have dreams, we're not going to think anything of it, you know, but looking back.
Yeah.
You know, have you heard of that radio host who was on the radio and saying like, talking, somehow it came up and he was like, I could get on my bicycle and go die on the street behind me, like at any time. And
interesting.
He did. He left the studio that day and died in the exact scenario. And I actually shared that, and his daughter commented on my TikTok and was like, thank you for sharing my dad's story.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah.
But it's almost like you really do know.
And it was a feeling. There's also Stephanie Arnold. We're friends on social media. She was pregnant, and she kept telling anyone who would listen, I'm going to die during childbirth. I'm going to die.
Oh my gosh.
No complications other than something that was like common that you didn't die from. Something to do with her placenta, I believe. And she was telling everyone who would listen. And the doctor put a crash cart in her room during the C-section just because, and that's the only reason that she lived.
Oh my gosh.
And the
full
doctor,
body chills.
She was in a documentary, Surviving Death, on Netflix, and the doctors actually like interviewed where she was like just going like, I can't believe this is happening. Like she knew.
Yeah.
Like she absolutely knew. So it was just like a feeling for her though.
Right.
That like, I'm going to die.
That's so crazy. And you know what? Okay, so we have a mutual friend, Shannon. Her name is The Medicated Medium on TikTok. You guys should go follow her. She's so sweet and hilarious. But anyway, I had a reading with her because she was like, let's talk to your dad. Like, let's get you some clarity. She could tell I was really struggling. And I told her, like, you know, I feel like I know when people are going to pass away. And because I actually had like a gut feeling when we left the house, I said I should have hugged my dad more. Obviously, my mom was here too. So that was like really weird for me. And I was crying. And Dustin was like, do you want to turn around? I wish I would have. We didn't, because I just thought it was anxiety. He told me that the difference between your intuition and your anxiety is anxiety will always be here, like physically, you can feel it in your body up here, and a gut feeling will always be directly in your stomach. And that's how you know that feeling is your intuition instead of your anxiety. Because I was like, how am I to distinguish the two when I feel like both are so heavy on me?
Yeah.
And that it kind of just reigned really true. Like it was a literal feeling. I felt sick in my stomach. And now I feel like that is easier for me to listen to, but I'm sure that she felt that way, just like so like body physically sick in your stomach. Like you just know.
Yeah. Like to the point where she was, I remember listening to her on the documentary and she was like, it was to the point where like if someone in Starbucks would be like, how are you doing? She would say, I'm going to die in 30 days. Like it was so strong for her.
That's crazy. But I mean, the thing is, she had that intuition. They put the crash cart in and she was able to survive.
Yes.
So that's just so interesting.
It is.
Okay, I have one more question. Do you think that we all have a predetermined time to go? Or do you think that we can somewhat manipulate and hold on?
I think that you can definitely manipulate and hold on.
Yeah.
I think that people definitely have control over that. And I've definitely seen people like decide when to go 100%.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes with people not in the room, sometimes they wait for people to come.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just, you know, their choice, which I was telling you yesterday. I think that's so weird because like I couldn't be like, I want to go to sleep right now and like go to sleep. But like you can seem to be able to choose that exact second when you want to die.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me. I actually just recently had a patient out. I think it's funny. Other people might not. But he was saying, he was asking, because I was his nurse, he was like, are you going to be here when I die? And I was like, so I take call on Thursday night. So if you die on a Thursday night, then it will be me.
Yeah.
And he was like, where do you live? And I was like, oh, I actually live like an hour away. He was like, who lives close to me? So I told him, and he was like, what night do they work? I was like, they are on call Tuesdays. He's like, I'll die on a Tuesday. Joking, but he did. He died on a Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. He was like, I don't want you to have to drive out here.
He's like, he's being very respectful that he lived the closest.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I know.
How people can like manipulate the time that they pass to also like just respect others.
And you know what's interesting is like now, you know, I've worked in a lot of different healthcare settings, but like all hospice nurses that I've ever worked with, like all believe too. Mm-hmm. So when he was not doing as well on like Monday on our morning meeting, like with everyone, I was like, by the way, he's going to probably die on you because I said this like 3 months ago. And she was like, are you serious? I was like, yeah.
And then it happened, and then you both are like, oh my gosh.
And to the point though that like all hospice nurses believe in this, to where they were like, well, we won't give you an admission for that night, which take a long time. Like that's my manager. Like
that's
we
amazing.
literally plan around these things
because you just
everyone believes it. Like that wouldn't happen in any other healthcare setting.
Yeah, for sure.
Like in the ICU, if they're like, someone's going to die tonight, so don't give me an admission, they would
be like, absolutely
you're actually
not.
getting 3 admissions now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy. So have you ever physically seen somebody like, or you can feel like that? I know I said that was my last question, but this is just running through my head. When they see those past loved ones come on, do you ever feel the energy in the room shift or feel like you almost like see something out of the corner of your eye? Not like obviously like fully see a ghost, but do you feel it?
So the only way I think I do is that sometimes I feel like I know where people are in the room, and then sometimes they will confirm it.
Okay.
So like I don't see anyone, but sometimes they'll be like there at my bedside, and I like notice that I've been respectful to like actually not go there when I normally like would. And it's like very subconscious.
Right.
You know, normally I will go right to someone's bedside and start talking to them and like taking their blood pressure, but it's like almost like I knew, like
to
obviously if I
respect
knew
the
a person
boundary.
was there, I'm not going to go walk over them, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's so interesting. So how do you feel about like places that Nick and I go, for instance? Do you feel like if you were to walk into one of those places, because you have seen so much death and been around and you know the energy shift, do you feel like you would be completely overwhelmed walking into one of those places? Like, do you feel like you'd be able to feel it all?
You know, sometimes I feel that whenever we go, so we live near New Orleans. They have like a lot of places like that. And sometimes there's like a hotel we've stayed in before that I was like terrified to walk through the hallways.
Okay.
Without Chris.
Yeah.
And it's not like a known haunted hotel, but, you know, it's been there since the early 1800s or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So there's been like things like that.
that you can just feel the
like something here is different. Thankfully, Chris is my husband. He will just be like, okay, well, I'll come back and get you when you're in the room.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Well, I would be so interested to have you come with us one time if you want to. I know it's kind of scary, but
no, I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, we definitely have to go to New Orleans because wow.
They do. I keep telling them to come. It's the history there is just so cool, and there's so much, and
there's
very interesting.
A lot of different beliefs down there too about like other paranormal stuff, which is not necessarily something that Nick and I dabble into. But you were saying like some of them believe that like vampires were actually there and stuff like that, which is so interesting because if you've ever watched like Vampire Diaries or the originals, like it's all around there. So it's just, we definitely have to come. We're definitely going to plan a trip. Before we go, tell them when your book is coming out, where they can get it.
Yeah, it's coming out June 13th. It's available everywhere. Yay.
Yes.
Target, Walmart, Amazon, everywhere. Books A Million, Barnes & Noble. They make you say all of them because you can't play favorites.
Yeah, make sure anywhere books are sold, basically.
Or your indie. They always support an indie bookseller. Is great.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And make sure that you guys go buy her book.
Thank you.
And, I guess that's it for us today, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.